Alright, so, I'm going to be talking about a comic that is a whole collection, and it's a book I've kind of, like, there's a bit of a connection to this book I have, and it's a weird one. But I thought it'd be kind of interesting because the comic itself is pretty interesting, for lack of a better word, and that is Venom by Daniel Way. This is the complete collection. I don't know if I'd call this a review or not, but, like, yeah. So I got this, for those who remember, back when I was at MegaCon, I got this for, like, what, $10? And this is this is like a $35 book, so I wasn't really missing much. For $10 for a nearly $40 book, I'll take it. And this is a comic I've been kind of wanting to read for a while, because, like I said, there was a bit of a connection I had with this comic. You see, back when I was a lot younger, and I do stress a lot younger, and I wasn't really comic collecting yet, I would go to this little bookstore in a mall, which has, this mall down in Sebring, which is a place in Florida, little mall, maybe some of you have heard of it, but this little mall had a bookstore once, and that bookstore had, like, comics on the shelves, and one of them was Venom. Now, mind you, I only knew about Venom from the TV show, and he was just a cool-looking character, and I had read some of this comic, and I was lost. And then, I would look for these trades, but they would be long gone. Like, these were long out of print. So it was really cool to see this all get collected. Now, so I kind of got this because it kind of triggered a core memory in my brain, and I was just like, yeah, I want to get this as a full-on comic. I really want to get this as a full-on pretty much for that reason. So, yeah. So, like I said, this was written by Daniel Way, who most of you guys would know best as, like, Daniel Way in the 2000s, 2010s, like early 2010s. Daniel Way had a knack for being a lot of places that probably would have worked better if he wasn't, because Daniel Way is a pretty mediocre writer, at least in my opinion. If you like his writing, that's fine. But Way was best known for writing Deadpool, a run like his, Daniel Way's Deadpool run started at, like, a lot of it, people said they liked the beginning of it, but no one liked it from the, going forward after the first two volumes, like the first two arcs. And then he did Thunderbolts for a bit. Then he also had done, like, Punisher Max. He had done a lot. But this was, like, his big coming out story. Like, this, before he did any of that, he did Venom. So what is this comic? Well, I wish I could tell you, because I don't even think this comic knows what it is. So, the whole thing, I will give it this. This is different in the sense of most Venom books. Because you see, in most Venom books, and I think this was Venom's first, I'm 99% sure this was Venom's first ongoing. And by ongoing, I mean it only ran for 18 issues. So, Venom's first ongoing. Definitely this was Venom's first ongoing. I gotta give credit where credit is due. You see, with a lot of the Venom miniseries, Venom was treated as was basically the one to go the anti-hero route. But Daniel Way's run went, no. Venom started out as a villain. We're going to go back to his villain roots. We are going right back to where where he really belongs in the villain grid. And I gotta say, this first story arc is really cool. Basically, our first story arc, called Shiver, is stop me if you've heard this one, because it's gonna sound really familiar in a minute. This story arc begins with a young woman named Patricia Robinson, who's a government agent working at a Arctic post, along with a small crew, and they hear a distress signal from a unknown another science outpost that they discover. However, the unknown attacker turns out to be an alien life form that can mimic and imitate the people it absorbs. It also attaches itself to dogs. Yeah, it's just the Thing. It's like Venom, but it's the Thing done with the Venom Symbiot, or at least a Venom Symbiot. See, this whole 18 issues talks about, this is where I begin with the whole, this is where it gets confusing. Because while I really liked Shiver as a story arc, it was a cool, Because even, like, Venom himself... Venom doesn't even show up. Eddie Brock doesn't show up. For a book called Venom, Eddie doesn't show up till, like, issue 12 of 18. Because here's the thing. The Venom Symbiot got... I'm trying my best to describe it. The Venom Symbiot basically got spliced and cloned, and we follow that symbiote as it's trying to find its way to Eddie. And Patricia Robinson, our main character, she is basically altered to be part of this symbiote. This deals with shadow governments that whoop-de-doo, or that, you know, shock to no one, Nick Fury's involved with. This also deals with a pair of women who are cloned. They're sisters, but they have an incestuous relationship with each other. Another agent who's like a robot who can rebuild himself with little mechanical spiders. It gets weird. And, like, for 18 issues, it does explain a few things, but I feel like Way wanted to explain more, but the book got canceled beforehand. If anyone knows, like, if this book got, you know, any kind of continuation, like, if someone picked up on what was going on in the Daniel Way run, I'd really like to know if they did or not, because, like, how this ends, it just kind of ends on a, oh, so we're not going to touch that. So the book's canceled before you could do, your big finale, huh? But yeah, it's more of a horror book. Like, that's what I really like about this one. Where this Venom book deals as more of a, you know, horror story, especially in the first arc. We also have, like, Venom fighting, you know, the Venom Symbiote fighting Wolverine, and we get the Wolverine Symbiote, and that goes back to what I was saying, is that was one of my first issues encountering Venom. With that Venom, this is the Venom book, and that image of symbiote of Venomized Wolverine, which I'll show you guys real quick. Let me just pull this up real quick. Give me 1 second. There's a lot of pages in this book. Give me one. Ah, there it is. Yeah. Pretty cool. It's kind of cool. But it's just kind of a gimmick. The art itself kind of ranges from okay to decent. Like, you have Scott Collins as one of the... Scotty Young as one of the artists. Most of you guys would know best for Scotty Young for, like, I Hate Fairyland. The other artists have that, like, it's that very early 2000s, like, glossy kind of action figure look that, you know what I'm talking about. That artwork in most of the early 2000s, where, like, late 90s, early 2000s, and especially in Marvel Comics art, where they would basically have, like, this kind of weird, glossy, oversaturated color action figure design to the colors, as well as the character designs. Yeah. It's a pretty interesting book. It's just weird, and also doesn't make sense, because the more it delves with the book, the more it ends on... and it doesn't help that it ends on a cliffhanger that probably never got resolved again. If anyone knows if this got resolved or not, please let me know. I'm curious. Yeah. This is a weird book. But I give credit, especially in that first volume, in this first story arc, Shiver. It's a really cool idea of making, you know, Venom a horror book, because he was treated as, like, a horror character the first time he appeared in Spider-Man books. And yes, Spider-Man does show up. Of course, you can't have a Venom book without Spider-Man. Duh. And also we get the Fantastic Four, and of course, like I said, Wolverine. But yeah. So, if you can find this for, like, dirt cheap, I would say give it a look. It's nothing special, but... it's fascinating. That's the, like, it's a nice it's an interesting window into that early 2000s era of Marvel, like, where it was very clear where what is fucking going on. That whole era of Marvel was just a whole era of what the fuck is going on, because I know they were still battling bankruptcy and trying to come back from the edge, and I think Quesada at this point was becoming the editor-in-chief at this point. I could be wrong. I think it was during the start of the Quesada era. But again, I could be wrong. I'm just gonna look right here. Yeah, it doesn't tell me. I was looking at the table of contents. Anyway. But yeah. If you're a diehard Venom fan, maybe give this a look if you can find it cheap. I wouldn't recommend spending $35 for this. It kind of really also... the writing, especially towards female characters, oh my god, especially towards the female characters, is really egregious, and that kind of carries with a lot of Way's work. But anyway, so there you go, guys. That's pretty much my take on Venom by Daniel Way. A twisted, confusing storyline. But anyway, you guys tell me in the comments below. If you've read it, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.